And I wanted to pose to you, how did the Ark of the Covenant serve the people who were in the presence of it, the culture at that time, as a way to be closer to God? Because when I think of that closest to God, I think of relationship. I think of being at that heavenly pace, and I think of being able to know holiness within you and in your and being in the presence of it. They're subtle signs, but it's almost unmistakable to some degree. When it comes to the Ark of the Covenant, what is reported on that experience for those who were in the presence of it, or even just the people who it affected of that time and maybe that time thereafter?
So one of the elements I'd point out when it comes to the Ark of the Covenant is it's easy to say that this is, as the Indiana Jones movie puts it, a telephone for talking to God. It's easy to view the Ark as merely a super weapon. I mean, after all, the walls of Jericho come tumbling down when the Ark is brought. Or you think of the sons of Aaron, who bring strange fire before the Ark, and the passage in Leviticus seems to imply that they're also intoxicated of some kind, because there's later on a prohibition about coming before the Lord drunk, and they're incinerated basically, right? And why is this interesting? Because we focus on those passages. I think inspired by Hollywood. I love Spielberg, and I love the Spielbergian, filmography. But we think of faces melting off, and we kind of miss the point. This isn't me saying that there isn't danger before a good and holy God. And this is not me saying that there isn't a reality to what C.S. Lewis said about Aslan, the lion, right? He is a good, but he is not a tame lion. Right? We need to remember that kind of awesome quality there. But the Ark of the Covenant as a holy meeting place between heaven and earth is designed and meant to cultivate relationship, which is at the heart of your question, in light of restoring the relationship that we had in the Garden of Eden. When Adam is expelled from the garden, who is guarding the gates of Eden? Well, it's two cherubim, right? Two angels with a fiery sword. When Isaiah the prophet, or Isaiah as the Brits pronounce it, in chapter 6, is taken up to the throne room of God, who's there before the throne? It's cherubim, same class of angels who are right there, right? Well, who's on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant? It's two angels. The lid is called the mercy seat, literally the throne of God, right? Where the blood of the Lamb is placed. If we went into the temple, which houses the Ark in Jerusalem, what's there? What kind of imagery? Well, you'd see pomegranates. There are pomegranates dangling from the hem of the garment of Aaron, the ceremonial garments, and precious stones on his breastplate. According to Ezekiel, I think it's 28. In Ezekiel, what's on Lucifer's breastplate or on his body? All these precious stones, implying Eden is this kind of place where the imagery of stones of garden and of fruits are available, right? So this garden imagery of trees and of angels, right, is repeated with the Ark. And any ancient, literate individual, of whom I think there were far more than whom modern scholarship claims there were, but I'm going to bracket that for a moment. And this could be oral literacy, even if one couldn't write something down. Vast tracts could be committed to memory. That needs to be mentioned too. But I do think that, for example, the historical Adam could write. But that's a whole other story. Anyone seeing these symbols would have said, okay, we were thrust out of the Garden of Eden, thrust out of that intimate presence of God, walking with God in the cool of the day. Now Moses on Horeb has seen the vision of the tabernacle. He's bringing us this image of the tabernacle down, right? And so the Garden of Eden is back in our midst. And Israel in the Old Covenant was called to be a light to the nations around them because they had Eden in their midst. They had Eden in their presence, right? so that the relationship could be restored. Here's the problem. Something has changed between the Garden of Eden and Sinai. Something has shifted. The introduction of death. Death into the world. Certainly spiritual death. I would argue biological death begins with Adam as well. And so there's a rift in the relationship. So atonement must happen. So the ark is the place where, once again, going back to law and gospel, you have the 613 commandments of the law being presented, which are not all ceremonial laws. Look at the 10 Commandments. That's a good summation of the natural law, as Lewis would put it, or the moral law, that we should do for our happiness, for our well-being. But we all, through our fallenness, we can't never live up to it. But the good news, the gospel is there, right? Because the blood of a lamb is offered on the lid of that mercy seat at the Ark of the Covenant. Even though we of our own power cannot fulfill that moral law, God has offered himself in our place on the cross and shed his blood for us on the cross. The ark is a symbol of the cross, the evangelion. And as a result, through the sprinkling of that blood, 7 times, I might add, before the ark on the Day of Atonement, what we have here is a fantastic image. And to go back to that Day of Atonement image, by the way, this is where we get the word scapegoat from. A lamb is offered in our place on the Ark of the Covenant. The priest lays his hands on him. But also to the sons of Aaron, I believe, certainly the high priest, also lay their hands on a goat who is sent out of the camp bearing the sins of the people, also an image of sin bearing. And in the book of Hebrews, the author, who I believe to be Paul, it's debated, but the author says, Christ has been crucified outside the camp, saying that Christ is a kind of scapegoat there. Therefore let us go and, in the words of Corinthians, let's go and keep the Passover feast, combining the two ceremonies, almost combining Yom Kippur and almost combining Passover. So restoring relationship through the Lamb. Now, it has often been said to me, okay, well then if you're saved by him taking it for you, and you get, how can you make this not sound like you're just getting off scot-free? How can you make this not sound as if, okay, as a result, do whatever you want as a result? As Paul says elsewhere, as some scandalously claim we say, let us do evil that good may come. Certainly not. Because if you love someone, if you've entered into a loving relationship, if you've been saved because what Jesus has done on the cross, and the Ark of the Covenant and the scapegoat and the lamb are both images of Jesus. I think biblically both are. Then I must, in the words of Paul, in the words of the Holy Spirit, offer my own body as a living sacrifice. This is why at my wedding with Sam, we use the words of the Old English Book of Common Prayer, where the word worship simply means honor, right? With my body I thee worship. Meaning, with my body I honor you by laying down my time as a living sacrifice. And that idea of sacrifice, I know it's been hijacked. I know for a lot of people that means self-demolition. That's not what we mean here.
Yes.
A healthy self-giving. This is my body given up for you. This is my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, shed for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this for my remembrance. The word remembrance there is amnesis. Amnesis means, in essence, to call to mind the events of the past as if they were happening right here and right now. So the Ark of the Covenant, wherever it is, whether it's in Ethiopia, which I think is very likely, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claim they have it in Aksum, or whether it's buried under Jerusalem in a cave, as some eyewitnesses claim, or whether it, take the conspiracy theory, it's hidden away under Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland or something, go a Da Vinci Code on us, or whether it was destroyed. What really matters is that the events of the Old and New Covenants, fulfilled in the person of Yeshua, Jesus, fulfilled in his person, are brought to present now as if they were occurring right here and now, because our relationship is not with a God who lived and died and rose, who is distant and remote, with a God who has lived, who has died and is risen and is with us here in this bench, in this place, in this recording as we are talking, and whenever you, the viewer or listener, are viewing or listening to it now.
Mm-hmm.
And that amnesis reality, it turns the Mass, it turns our Bible reading into prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Without the amnesis reality, without the remembrance reality, it's easy to make it an idol, or at worst, just to go dryly to the motions.